Welcome to the second video in my web game series, and in the last video we made this skeleton website from which we'll be able to start adding our JavaScript code. The last video, if you were an absolute beginner, was probably a bit tough just because this stuff won't make sense, but through repetition you'll be able to get this. Luckily, in this video I'll be covering JavaScript, which is, I believe, much easier to pick up at the beginning. So, like I said in the first video, your HTML code defines what your website will be, what its contents will be, what its basic structure, its outline will be. And JavaScript is the brains of it. And we're going to spend most of the videos in this series on simply the brains of the website because that's where most of the game dev is going to kick in. So I want to add some JavaScript to this website here. And to do that, I have to create a script tag. And tags are created using the following format. So I'm going to do this inside of body. I'm going to create a I'm going to type left angle bracket, script, right angle bracket. Then I'm going to go a few spaces down, left angle bracket slash script, right angle bracket. And everything in between will be a part of our JavaScript. Notice that I tabbed over the script tags here. This just makes it extra clear that this script is inside or enclosed by the body tag here. If everything here, if this whole website, everything was simply had the same indentation, this would be really hard to read. But through indentation, I can see that the title is inside the head, the script is inside the body. Now, inside the script tag, I'm going to be putting the JavaScript. And JavaScript, what we're going to do is we're going to put a message on this website. And we're going to use that using the simple console command. Console.log hello world, your basic starting program for almost every tutorial. Notice what I have here, console.log, and then 2 parentheses. Hello world is in quotation marks. That's very important because this program wouldn't even run if you did not have the quotation marks. So you need the quotation marks. And finally, I ended this one line of code with a semicolon. Almost all lines of code in JavaScript are ended by a semicolon to tell the web browser that this line of code is done executing. And there'll be exceptions, and you'll learn about the exceptions as we go through this series. But think for now that all lines of code end with a semicolon. Now, if I refresh this page, we don't get any result here. We did not actually modify the website in any way, and we'll do that in the future. But all I did was send a message to the console. So to access the console, I just click F12, and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff appear here. Elements will show you what your HTML is. Some of you are already familiar with this. If you're like me and you like to go on websites and click F12 just so you can look at all the code, go over one tab to console, and here you see the hello world message that we created. And it also tells you what line of code is responsible for it. Index.html line 15. And sure enough, that's correct. This is my index.html file, line 15. Here's console.log. So that's how you get messages to the screen. Let's see what would happen if you omitted the quotation marks. When you omit the quotation marks, then the console.log command is not going to know that this is the message you want. It's going to look for data called hello world or a variable called hello world. And now if I refresh the page, I'm going to get uncaught syntax error, missing parentheses after argument list. And that's not really the problem. We're not missing parentheses, but we get an error either way. And so this is when we do debugging, this is how you'll know when you have errors. If you refresh, the console will tell you the error and where the error was. So I'm going to re-add the quotation marks, and what I'm going to finish this video with is a simple introduction to variables. Variables are pieces of data, named pieces of data that hold values. Here's how you create a variable. I would have var for variable, name, equals, and I'm going to set the name equal to Matt, my name. Var name equals Matt. The variable name is equal to the word Matt, semicolon. This tells you that this line of code is done executing. Variables are just locations with data. They're just named memory locations. And you could do something clever. You can replace console.log hello world with console.log name, like that. And let me walk through that a little slower. Console.log open parentheses name closing parentheses semicolon. Now something different is going to happen here. So if I refresh the page, I get Matt. Now notice there's a clear distinction between console.log name and console.log name. When I put name with no quotation marks, that means we're going to be using the variable name here, and whatever its data is, I'm saying to the browser, I want you to output this data here that's stored inside of this variable. But when I say console.log quotations name, that means I want the message name to be on the screen, which is why when I refresh this page, I get Matt for the first one, because that's what this line does, and then name for the second one. And that concludes this video. In the next video, I'm going to be covering more kinds of variables as well as what we can do with them. And thank you for watching.